Howdy and welcome back. So why do the size of objects stored on the stack have to be known at compile time? So if the sizes of the parameters and local variables are fixed at compile time, and if these parameters and local variables are stored in the same order in the activation record each time that the respective function is invoked, then the location of each parameter and local variable will always be at the same fixed offset from the stack pointer. For example, on each invocation of ×2, remember this, we talked about this, we introduced this function in the previous video. We're going to go ahead and let's say it gets called. Okay, so we're going to allocate, let's say, 8 bytes here, each integer, assuming it's 4 bytes. And we move the stack pointer 8 bytes to perform this. Now, if this activation record is always the same size and the variables and the parameters are always laid out in the same order, T1 could always be accessed through the stack pointer plus 0. Notice it starts right at 1032. Now let's say we wanted to access the local variable R1. How do we get to that? Well, if we know T1 is an integer object and is been allocated for 4 bytes of memory, to get to R1, all we have to do is step over T1. So if you were to do stack pointer plus size of an integer object, you arrive at the address 1036. If you begin interpreting the bytes at that address according to as an integer object, you're going to get out this whole object, R1. And in this case, R1 is going to be the initialized with the result of the parameter T1 multiplied by 2. And that's how we'd assign to it. We'd perform this computation, and then we'd calculate the address of R1 and go ahead and go out to it and store the result of T1 times 2 at that location in memory. Okay, so what, I guess? So why do the size of objects stored on the stack have to be known at compile time? So we kind of showed that, okay, if each activation record is the same size and the objects that reside in it are laid out in the same order, we have this very simple arithmetic. I mean, if you think back to arrays, it's almost like pointer arithmetic, except in this case, instead of using the base address of the array, we're using the stack pointer, and the objects within this activation record viewed as a heterogeneous array is not always at, say, a fixed offset from the previous one. So that's all makes things easy. Now, consider this. If we were to introduce a variable length array into this mix, so when I say variable length array, I'm saying, let's say that ×2 had an array whose size could vary from each function call. Well, this would be problematic in a way, because then those offsets to the local variables will no longer be fixed at compile time. Instead, the offsets will become dependent on the size of the array used in a particular invocation of the function. And my favorite response kind of to this was, I believe it's in one of Bjarne Stroustrup's books, he's the original implementer of the C++ language. He said, whatever. He said, this complicates things for the compiler designer. So variable length arrays on the stack are not going to be supported by the C++ standard. So let's kind of see put this together and see what it means. So on the left-hand side of this slide, we have func2a. On the right-hand side, func2b. Func2a has a value size variable size whose value is known at compile time, 3. We create an array of 3 elements named a. It's going to have 3 integer objects, and then within this function there's also a double C that's initialized to 0. Now on the right-hand side, func2b, and what's written here is not supported by C++, but we'll get into why it might work for you if you take this and try to compile it. But anyways, we're trying to get the size of that array at runtime. And how do we know that it's at runtime? Well, in this case, it's very obvious. We're asking the user to enter it. And then we're using that value to create this variable length array. Why is it variable length? Because on, say, one invocation of func2b, the user might say the size is 2. On another invocation, maybe 100. And notice that if we're laying this stuff out in order in memory, what does that mean for the location of C? Well, it's not always going to be at the same offset from the stack pointer. So let's go ahead and just look at this and see what's going on. So on the left-hand side, we can see here that C is always going to be at the same relative address from the stack pointer. It's always going to be after A of 2, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 integer objects come before it. So we can easily get to that location. Now let's look at func2b. With the variable sized array, this becomes a little bit more complicated. If we lay it out in order of declaration, we see size, we see the first element of the array, all the other elements kind of in here, and then we see A of size -2, A of size -1, and then finally C. So between different function calls, where C is going to live with respect to offsetting the stack pointer is going to vary. So in the case on the left, C is always at the same offset from stack pointer. In the case on the right, C is not always at the same offset from the stack pointer. And remember, this is a variable sized array. A is in this case, and C++ does not support that. So you go, okay, I'm going to try out that code, and I find it compiles and I'm able to run it just fine. And I don't know, maybe you call me a liar. Well, here's why variable length arrays on the stack might work for, say, you and not the person, well, if we were in person, the person sitting next to you, but maybe the person you're talking to on Zoom. So variable length arrays, just to be clear, are not in this C++ standard as of C++ 17. This example here is clearly, if you compile it and run it, it might work for you, it might not, meaning you might be able to get a variable length array on the stack, though you might not be able to. So why, what's the reasoning for this? So variable length arrays on the stack are valid in C, not C++, C 1999 standard. The reason why variable length arrays on the stack may work for you on one system and not on another is that some C++ compilers have chosen to support variable length arrays on the stack. However, given that not all of the C++ compilers that you may encounter support variable length arrays and instead kind of allow you to do it because they have this some sort of add-on or extension, I guess, capability that does support it, you should not use them because it makes your code non-portable. Okay, so what did we cover? I hope you kind of see the motivation for why do the size of objects stored in the stack have to be known at compile time? And it's all with those relative offsets from the stack pointer. It makes it very clear, like where one of the local variables or where one of the parameters is going to live within the activation record of a specific function. So now let's get into problematic, which will illustrate some of the limitations of using the stack exclusively within our programs.